Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Zzzax of Live podcast, a Marvel podcast from Laughing Place, episode number 72. I'm Mike Mack. With me, as always, is Kyle Burbank. How's it going, Kyle? Wow, just a really throwback intro there. I like it.
Thank you. I talked about Mr. Mackey earlier this week for some reason, so it's just kind of
okay. All right. Just South Park on the mind.
Because I think I said that Tony was doing a walk and talk from MK, and then I was like, and I'm not just being Mr.
Okay. All right. So, this is episode number 72. We're going to be talking about the second episode of Marvel's Secret Invasion, which just hit Disney Plus today. We're, of course, going to have our, as usual, ridiculous games. How much is that cameo? We have a really fun draft that I'm excited about with a guest who has been on probably more than anybody else at this point. So we'll get to that later. First off, Kyle, this is...
about something?
Huh?
Can I complain about something?
Of course you can. That's pretty much just what we do here, isn't it?
Well, you mentioned how the second episode of Secret Invasion has hit Disney Plus. You know what still hasn't hit Disney Plus?
Yeah, okay, so let's open up our news segment here with a lack of news. And yeah, go ahead. What's not hit Disney Plus?
So yeah, a couple of weeks ago, we were supposed to get assembled for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, and it still hasn't happened. Meanwhile, today we got the Disney Gallery Mandalorian Season 3 as promised, but still no sign of Ant-Man. So I don't know why they do these things. I don't know why they don't own up to these errors when they happen and give us answers.
I mean, I have a thought as to what they might need to cut or who they might need to cut out of that documentary that might be delaying it for a little bit. But at the same time,
why would they announce it? They only announced it right when it was supposed to come out.
Yeah, it's not like they gave us the date like a year ago. It's, it was recent. So it's definitely a weird choice there. Before we get into the news that we do have to talk about here, I want to say this is the first time since She-Hulk ended that we are doing episodes on back-to-back weeks. So if you've been listening for a while, JC, you might be, used to us having a whole lot of news to catch up on. There's pretty much nothing to talk about from the past week.
I saw the list.
Yeah, it's not much. There was some Marvel Comics news, but we don't really do a whole lot of that here. That's pretty visually based on, with the comics and stuff like that. So not a whole lot to talk about in a audio medium. But we do have a few quick hitters here, and we'll start off with Guardians of the Galaxy.
I may say,
this
news segment may contain spoilers for the episode 1.
Yes, good
Secret
point.
Invasion.
Yeah.
We won't spoil anything for episode 2 unless the banner's up.
Yes,
but episode 1, it might come up.
Which, if you're watching a podcast or listening to a podcast about episode 2 of Secret Invasion, gotta expect some episode 1 spoilers, I think. Anyway, we're going to start off with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Kyle, have you heard of that movie?
Heard of it? Seen it? No. I fully committed to just waiting for Disney Plus at this point. That's what happened is, you go so many weeks, you're just like, what's the point?
Right. Well, now, would you consider doing it on digital as opposed to waiting for Disney Plus? Because I guess we don't really know when.
I suppose that's a really good point. And yes, I would consider. I might. I was like, this steelbook looks awesome. I might just buy the steelbook.
Yeah, it does. A lot of the stuff. There's all the 4K, the Blu-ray, the DVD, all of that. They all have their different things that come with them, and they do look really, really cool. I love the artwork on all of them. But anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 will be available on digital July 7th. So I mean, we're only like a week away from, or 10 days, whatever, from you being able to watch Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which we'll have to catch up. We'll have to start one of our episodes with some of your thoughts on Volume 3, especially if it's a light news week like this. But again, digital July 7th, and then 4K, Blu-ray, DVD August 1st. So you still got a little bit of a wait for that. I'm curious. I wanted to go back and look at what the difference was between the digital release and the Disney Plus release for Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. I would guess it'll be roughly the same for Volume 3, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, I would imagine that it's probably the Disney Plus will probably be around the August date, but maybe I will depending on how much it costs. What is it, like $30? That might not be so bad.
question. I haven't actually, like jumped on a digital release as soon as it's come out, either because I had already seen it or, something like that. But
I'm usually the one to cheap out and get see if they have like an SD version and I can save $5. So I'm like, okay,
right.
What do I care?
Because the difference is so worth the $5 that you save. But real quick, want to address some comments. Hi, Alexander. Hi, Sonja. And then All in the Game points out Spider-Verse is set to outgross Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 domestically, which is impressive given how well the latter did. Yeah, I mean, Spider-Verse has been pretty much dominating the box office for a few weeks now. So, and it deserves it. That movie was fantastic. So,
did you happen to see that fake news going around Facebook about Beyond the Spider-Verse being delayed like 3 years?
No, I did not see that.
It was really stupid. And I like how people post it. Possibly misinformation. I'm like, then why are you posting
right.
it? It's so clearly fake. Like in this letter signed by Sony and Marvel, it's like due to incompetence at the studio. I'm like, that's not
clearly something they would have released.
Just have
I did see
media savvy.
I did see though that there are slightly different versions of the film going around to different theaters. Did you see that?
I saw that implication. Yes.
Yeah, it's the smallest, unless there's other aspects to it as well. The one clip I saw is just the AI character either taking a selfie or going for a fist bump in one moment. That's it. That's the only difference. Really, the line is the same and everything. So yeah,
that part of it's animated by a 14-year-old, not named Gideon Mosley somehow.
It won't be too long though, I'm sure. All right, so we're going to be talking about Secret Invasion in this week's episode. So there is a little bit of Secret Invasion news for us to talk about. Like I said, not a ton, but shortly after we wrapped up last week's episode, actually, it was during the last week's episode that Nick Fury debuted in Avengers Campus in Disney California Adventure. We have a video of that on laughingplace.com if you would like to check that out, or on the Laughing Place YouTube channel.
Speaking of different versions, there's different versions of the show because there's 5 different things. And I guess whatever, depending on what the kid picks, the show might be a little bit different because they might do a different activity. Yeah, I thought this was interesting. I think the most notable thing was that even though he's got that kind of like Secret Invasion beard and the kind of beanie, he does have an eye patch in the show. And there's a few theories for why this is. I think it really just comes down to that's his most recognizable look. So even if he has the like Secret Invasion, like older Nick Fury look, the eye patch is how people know who he is. So I think it's more of a layperson decision. But then Mike Celestino brought up, it could be, having that contact and having the makeup for the scratches. Like there is other reasons, but I think if I had to guess what the top one was, it'd be recognizability.
Yeah, and I think
recognition is a way better way to say that.
That's another. Yeah, that's a word. I think there is. I think both of those probably play into it a little bit. I think there's also the possibility that
this week's scroll.
Whoa.
Not Nick Fury in Avengers Campus, and we still haven't seen Nick Fury in Avengers Campus. No, just throwing that out there because I wanted to hit the button. But
that's fair. What do you think the entire morning show is? Is excuses for me to make jokes.
I'm just still waiting for you to drop the breaking news button on us at some point.
We don't have any post. If you have a poster on the list, then
no new posters. There were a few interviews that came out in the past week with some of the cast, the stars of Secret Invasion. One of them being, and again, spoilers for last week's episode, but Kobe Smulders plays Maria Hill, who, of course, was killed at the end of last week's episode, hence our most memorable MCU character deaths draft, which you won, by the way. Congrats on that.
I think we might have had the most votes we've ever had. I won't say how many that was, but I think this was it.
Oh, just dozens and dozens of votes. Tens of them. Maria, I want to call her Maria Hill. Kobe Smulders did share some of her thoughts, like reflected on her time working with Marvel. And one of the thoughts that came up that I didn't really think about after watching the show is she was asked about, like, what did she think about, does Maria Hill know that it wasn't Nick Fury that killed her? Because that's what she saw. That was the last thing she saw was Nick Fury pulling the trigger. And that's such a dark thought that maybe she died thinking her best friend and, her coworker for how many years is the one who killed her. And she said that, there was a lot going on, but she likes to think that she knows it wasn't him. So I thought that was pretty interesting. That was something that, again, never came to mind for me watching the show.
Yeah, and I don't think I really thought about that either. But yeah, Kobe had a nice run in the MCU. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if they talked about this. The story I heard was that the way she got into it was that Allison Hannigan Joss came to visit the How I Met Your Mother set because they knew each other from Buffy, and recommended for the Avengers.
Right.
So I don't know if obviously there's a lot more hoops to jump through than just be like,
yeah.
oh, okay, sounds like a good idea. But I think that's kind of cool that Allison, who obviously they were on How I Met Your Mother together, could have had a hand in getting her into this thing that became a job for 10 years, more than 10 years at this point.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that too. I hadn't heard that story, but during the press junket for Secret Invasion, they talked about Kobe Smulders. Again, I almost called her Maria Hill. That's just who she is to me. Or Robin Sparkles, one of the two. But they talked about Kobe Smulders and how she, with her screen test and how she got the role. Samuel L. Jackson said it was because she was the only one that absolutely crushed the technical jargon. Just like the whole reading for Maria Hill was just random, just I'm sure she said quantum like 3 or 4 times, things like that. And he said nobody else could do it. She absolutely crushed it. And then she was like, and I haven't gotten it right once since then. And so yeah, that was an interesting little tidbit from that. One other interesting interview. Did you see Emilia Clarke talking about the incident that she had?
I saw the headline. I did not actually read the story.
Yeah. She talked about having to drive, I forget what the name of the vehicle was, but a car that was much more complex. Something much more complex than what she was used to. She said it had like 10 pedals, and she, didn't really get a rundown on how to operate this thing. And so she's supposed to film this scene where she is driving off, and Samuel L. Jackson is right there, and she was supposed to hit the brake, and she hit the she hit the gas a little bit, and almost ran over Samuel L. Jackson. And then she said, he was really nice and really sweet about it, had no, took no issue or anything like that. And she said, then I cried a little bit and someone else drove it for me. So interesting sequence of events filming on Secret Invasion.
That's one of those things, if it goes wrong, they're like, wait, why was she actually driving in the first place? Like, we have stunt doubles for this reason.
We brought this vehicle in. Clearly somebody is familiar with it. So yeah, it was an interesting choice. And she said she was like flustered, like she was just thrown into the situation, was asking questions, and they were like, no time, you got to go. It's just like, of course something like that is going to happen. You're lucky it wasn't worse than that. But so yeah, just a funny little story.
Funny, and maybe shows some of the issues.
Sure. Well, yeah, again, now because we didn't have to delay filming because Samuel L. Jackson needed 6 different surgeries. But so yeah, it's funny to look back at it now, but not so much in the moment, I suppose.
No, I mean, especially with some of the film on-set accidents that that we've had over the years. It's scary.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, ready to get into our episode discussion here?
Let's do it.
All right, the banner is going up. If you are watching live, as long as you see this banner on the screen, we are discussing this week's episode of Secret Invasion with spoilers. So if you haven't watched the episode yet, maybe mute us. Keep an eye out for when that banner is down. Then you can rejoin us. Let me catch up on some comments here. Anything here? Emilia Clarke somehow looks even younger than you'd expect. Yeah, I mean, and she's looked the same since the beginning of Game of Thrones. So aside from a little bit of a different hairstyle, but yeah. All right, so let's get into the second episode of Secret Invasion. As I said last week, I had already seen the first 2, so I'm just itching for I am itching for next week's episode so much. But what did you think of the second episode?
I thought it was good. I was surprised by a couple like little things. Namely, I think it has probably, well, I haven't seen Guardians 3, so I'm sure that this is wrong. But aside from that, one of the more graphic scenes in an MCU installment. But yeah, no, I liked parts of it. There's parts where you're thinking to yourself, okay, is there going to be a big reveal here? And then it doesn't happen. And it's, does that mean that it's not the thing you think? Who
Right.
knows?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's lots of questions I have here. I do like that these are like, I almost swore, but these are like fuller episodes. These are actually like hour long, and maybe not, but when you subtract the credits, but
Sure.
they're definitely more substantial than some of the other shows we've had. And yeah, I mean, maybe if I'm not as much like itching to see the next one right away, but I'm, getting more invested than I was after last week's episode.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you said. I think this episode, ups the ante, like keeps building that tension. Like you said, you keep waiting for like some sort of reveal, and it feels like they just keep stretching it out more and more. And yeah,
I mean, I will. On that point, though, there was one part where I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't see a trailer for this because I put dots together.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, exactly. I was going to mention that too. We'll talk about that a little bit more. I wanted to mention. We'll kind of just jump well into the episode here, but yeah, that graphic moment that you were talking about. Yeah, I can't remember anything in the MCU. Maybe there was something in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 that kind of compares to it, but to me, this was harder to watch. I definitely cringed and looked away. This one,
I was like, because it seemed like they were going to do the bit where it's just on the person's face, and then you're like, oh, we cut to a different shot.
Yep, no, and they fully, and we're just talking about Sonya Fallsworth, Olivia Colman, who really gets to open up the character in this episode, and is just fantastic. And just she's torturing a prisoner, and she cuts off his finger, and they do not pull back in any way, which was brilliant, though. I like because in the moment I'm just like, oh, well, she's just torturing him. Kind of don't need to see that. But then we get the reveal that, oh, well, his finger turns back into a scroll. So pretty brilliant. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And that's probably the justification for showing it. I think if it was actually a human, they wouldn't have. But, it's a little bit not quite cartoony, but I think that kind of makes it okay within a second of it happening. I still don't know if I love it, but I think I probably would have liked it if she just held the finger afterwards, but actually seeing the cut was like a little much, even if it wasn't, human.
It was. But while we're talking about Sonya Fallsworth, I just want to mention that, like I said, she gets to open up the character in this episode and is just like really, really awesome. And I loved her line where she walks into, what is it, like a butcher shop or something, where they're holding this prisoner and torturing him. And she walks in, and the guy comes in and just says, that door was locked. And she goes, and now that it's open, what does that tell you about me indoors? And that is such a, this character just jumped up my list. She is awesome. I can't wait to see more of her in the show going forward.
Yeah. Now that we've confirmed that.
Let's jump back to the beginning of the episode here, because we start off with a flashback, which, by the way, if I have any issue with this show, there's a lot of it that takes place in London, and I'm not entirely sure why. Like, we get a flashback where it's roughly right after the events of Captain Marvel, and they're in London. We get a scene later on where it's Maria
in London.
Sorry. We had the same thought too. Yeah. We see Maria Hill's body being picked up by the United States military in London after she died in Moscow.
That's where you transfer bodies from Russia. Everybody knows this, Mac.
I guess that's where you stop. And yeah, I don't know. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in London, but we get this flashback where we kind of get all the context here All in the Game has the explanation: budgetary reasons. If you're going to film in London, get your money's worth out of it. But that was just an airstrip. That could have been anywhere. They didn't have to put London on the screen before that. But we get this flashback where we kind of get the context for Fury's relationship with Gravik, and we see Gravik brought in as a young Skrull child. We hear that his parents were killed by the Kree, and Gravik watches him give this impassioned speech to the Skrulls about how he promises, if they work with him, then he will find them a new planet and all of that. Basically the premise of the show. I do like the explanation, though, that it is, this explains why Fury was always able to stay a step ahead and have all this information. He had a network of Skrulls working for him all this time. So it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, this just provides that context that Gravik took it so personally because he was there in person. He watched Fury make this promise and, not deliver for however many years. So
It was a little weird to have that like sizzle reel before this scene, as far as like catch you up. Like, wouldn't this have gone in the first episode? Like,
right, yeah,
we know if we've come this far.
yeah, it's very true. We do the whole previously on is all just Captain Marvel from this movie. So aside from, I think they just showed the end of the last episode where Maria Hill gets killed, but aside from that, all from Captain Marvel. It was an interesting takeaway for me from this train ride between Talos and Talos. They keep bouncing back and forth between the two. I think we need to pick one, but it's Talos and Fury on the train, and Fury learns that there's not just what was it, a couple thousand scrolls. He thought it's 1 million scrolls, and they're all on Earth. So they've been infiltrating all this time, and I really liked the exchange between the two of them, where Talos was saying, I think with your help, we could coexist. And he's like, humans can't coexist with themselves. How is that possibly? And, that felt so real. So I liked that. But my big takeaway here was that, Fury gets, really angry with Talos. He kicks him off the train, and with no audience, he is visibly distraught. I think he even puts his head in his hands and sort of slumps down. Last week I was saying I feel like maybe this isn't all an act. Maybe Fury isn't as vulnerable, and he's putting this on so that he can stay a few steps ahead. With no audience, though, that doesn't make any sense. If he's doing this when nobody else is watching him, then clearly he is not quite the Fury we used to know.
Good point.
So
I feel like they're talking a little bit loud on a train. Like,
yeah, I thought that too. They were screaming at each other while there were soldiers on the train looking for Fury. So they weren't exactly being discreet, although I liked the exchange where Talos was disguised as a woman and says, you'd be more likely to find aliens or something like that. So I liked that. We had the debut of a new actor in the MCU who we knew for a long time was attached to this project. Christopher McDonald, I believe is his name, better known as Shooter McGavin himself.
He's also in The House Buddy, which I think is underrated. Slightly.
Also, if it's rated, I think it's properly rated, probably. But he also, real quick, he was great in the show Hacks on HBO. So, but yeah, Shooter McGavin, he is in
like 2 lines.
He did. He didn't really get much. I'm sure there's going to be more of him going forward because we find out later on he's on the Skrull Council. But yeah, they're going through all the reports from around the world and how basically Gravik started a war between America and Russia, and they're explaining like the politics of everything. And then it comes to Shooter McGavin, and he says, "Stay out of my way. Listen to what I say, or you'll pay." No,
Maybe I'll go eat some hay. What do you say? I just may.
No, yeah, he's like the American reporter that then is again on the Skrull Council. So I love that. I like, seeing him show up. It's going to be almost distracting because it's just going to be Shooter McGavin. But I want to talk about that scene with the Skrull Council, though, because Gravik, this is one of the big developments of this episode. Gravik meets with this council of Skrulls who are impersonating humans in high positions of power. I don't think we got descriptions for all of them. But we know like the UK
that's the thing.
Minister.
That you bring up a good point. So you say impersonating people in high positions of power, but they've been on the planet for a while. So is it possible that these identities of theirs have gained power? So I don't even necessarily think that they're spoofing somebody else. I think this is who they are. They've just happened to rise to power. But I guess that's not really explained one way or the other, is it?
No, it's not. And that is a very good point, and definitely a possibility. I just like the idea that there's somebody else out there that's just like, I look exactly like the UK Prime Minister because some Skrull copied her and then went on to become the Prime Minister.
Okay, so you're saying they could have been like somebody who looks like them, but not. It's not like they spoofed the president, and now there's a second president. It's not a Dave situation.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying, because Skrulls don't really create new, looks. They're copying the look of somebody else.
Okay.
So yeah, they not necessarily did they like steal their identity, but they stole their look and then could have gone.
So the difference that we're talking about is not as big as I initially thought.
No, right.
I'm on board with what you're saying.
But either way, yeah. So we got the UK Prime Minister. There's the I don't know what the title is, the head of NATO. And then What was it?
The head of NATO.
Yeah, that might just be it. That might be the title. Like it's like Kevin Feige's title. I don't know. Just Marvel Studios Lord.
We forgot to talk about him. He's going to be on the Hollywood Walk of Fame sometime next year.
Oh yes,
along with Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah. So a little bit of Marvel news that we'll sprinkle in here. Yeah. By the way, about time that Kevin Feige
and Michelle Yeoh from she's in Shang-Chi, among other 10 Disney credits this year.
Right. And just 100 credits in general. So yeah, that's pretty cool news for Marvel fans. Again, about time Kevin Feige's on there. I mean, only produced 10 of the top
years of
movies ever. Excuse me. But yeah, so one of the big developments, like I said, of this episode is Gravik being given the role of Skrull General by this council. And I thought this was a really cool scene. Also, probably noticed Gravik becoming Benji's favorite character when he said, I quite like dogs. In fact, I prefer them. When they talked about him behaving like a dog.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Benji has a new favorite character. But yeah, I really liked this scene. I think Kingsley Ben-Adir has been fantastic as the villain so far. And I'm looking forward to his development more and seeing him. I mean, we see some of his action in this and it was great. But I want to see him, build that intensity even more and get to that big sort of blow off fight with Nick Fury. There's also a lot of Gravik and Gaia together in this episode, and Gravik doesn't say a whole lot, right? He talks to the council, and that's by far the most we got out of him in the 2 episodes. But with his looks, everything about him is telling me he doesn't trust Gaia, and Gaia is working, 2 sides here. She's working with Gravik, obviously, but then also feeding her father information. She also might be working a third angle. I don't know if you caught this, but there's a moment when later on in the episode, she sneaks away and she makes a phone call in Russian. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why. I don't know who she would be talking to.
Well, they are in Russia, but still, yeah.
Well, aren't they? I thought they were in. Oh, they might. Yeah, they're still in Russia. Fury went to London, and then who knows where else. Yeah, you're right. So true. Maybe she was ordering a pizza. I don't know. But she sneaks off, makes this phone call in Russian. She's not calling Talos. She wouldn't be speaking in Russian. So I don't know who it is that she's speaking to in that moment. So that's going to be pretty interesting as well. But yeah, there's this dynamic between her and Gravik where I don't think Gravik fully trusts her. And I feel like there's going to be an interesting swing at some point between these 2 characters.
I did want to share something I thought was funny about the where we kind of go from news source to different news sources. Mm-hmm. There's the one where it's like the white and red globe. Pretty sure that's just an Adobe Premiere standard news transition, because I have that and I will have to show it to you because it's pretty funny how similar it is.
Well, we're going to have to use that then as we transition to news in the future for this podcast.
You know what? I will actually export it and upload it by the end of this thing, and we can watch it together.
So another big element of this episode is that Gaia finds out that there's some sort of experiments being done by Gravik and his Skrulls, and they are using a scientist who looks oddly like Christine Palmer. Like in the first moment that you see her with the red hair and the lab coat, I was like, it looks like they just lifted her from. It's like if someone said, "Can we get Christine Palmer?" and they said, "No, we have Christine Palmer at home."
Mack and his memes.
We then find out that her name is Rosa Dalton, which not a comic book character. I tried looking for any information on this character, nobody out there. So yeah, a new character. There's nothing to know about her, but we see that they're doing some kind of experiments. She talks with talking about Dalton. She talks with Pagan, who is sort of Gravik's right hand. It's gonna be hard to get to all the names straight throughout this show, but at least they're not just like consonants and apostrophes. But she talks to Pagan, and he says like the harvest wasn't there, and they keep talking about the harvest. And then later on, Gaia is looking up information on a computer that's straight out of the 90s, and finds that the work that Dalton is doing, they've been harvesting DNA, and they have let me get the list right. So they have Groot DNA, they have a Frost Beast, Cull Obsidian and Extremis. So Groot and Cull Obsidian both. Cull Obsidian, by the way, is the big child of Thanos. Gets his hand cut off by. It does, but yeah, we see him get killed twice actually, both in Avengers: Infinity War and Avengers: Endgame. So they could have gotten his DNA from either Wakanda or in New York. Same could be said for Groot, right? I mean, he was involved in both of those battles as well. The Frost Beast, which that one took me a second to remember, but the post-credit scene of Thor: The Dark World is just that giant monster running around. And of course, you know, I guess eventually it was brought down, and so they got
trying to make it relevant again.
Yeah, stop trying to make Dark World a thing. And then of course, Extremis from Iron Man 3. They got, I guess they may have just gotten some of like the serum itself. Maybe they took the DNA from somebody who used Extremis. I don't know, but so yeah, they are sort of playing on like using this DNA to quote unquote make them stronger. And I liked this comment from All in the Game earlier, which I hadn't really thought about. Sort of a clever nod towards the Fantastic Four powers. You've got Cull Obsidian representing the Thing. You've got Extremis being the Human Torch. Groot could be sort of Mr. Fantastic. Frost Giant to Invisible Woman. I don't know, but we'll see. But yeah, I do think this is resulting in what will be the MCU's version of Super Skrulls. Or the Super Skrull, however, you know, whatever they end up doing. And I think I'm hoping that they give us just a throwaway line, like the one that I wanted in Wakanda Forever. I wanted Ross, or the Skrull pretending to be Ross, to say, you know, what, like Atlantis? We didn't get that in that movie. I want here, you know, Talos to be explaining what happened to Fury, and Fury saying, what do we got, Super Skrulls or something like that? You know, just something, some stupid throwaway line that kind of confirms it for us.
I was gonna make an obscure reference to a Katy Perry Kanye West song, but not really appropriate. But I do have this bit that's gonna go over great on the podcast. Here's the.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that does look a lot like. Yeah, we're gonna have to add some sound to that and use that in future episodes for sure now. Yeah, this, and I assume this is what you were talking about, by the way, right? With the trailer kind of spoiling, where you see the Skrull reach his arm out and extend like Groot. So yeah, we kind of had the nod to that in the trailer, which is unfortunate. You're right. So yeah, that kind of explains where they're going with this. Definitely interesting. I like that they could get to a Super Skrull without having to, you know, we're years away from Fantastic Four still. So I like that they found a way to get there. Excuse me. We get what I thought was one of my favorite scenes of the show so far is the meeting between Rhodey, Colonel Rhodes, James Rhodes, whatever we want to call him, with Nick Fury. Partially because during that press junket, they talked about they've never really had an extended scene together before. They've kind of always been in passing. So I like that we got to see them work together, and yet it's not a fun scene. Like, it's so incredibly tense between the two of them. And basically, Rhodey refuses to help Fury in this fight. He even suggests, should we call our friends? Talking about the Avengers. And then he says, you know, we can't risk them, you know, getting taken, being duplicated by the Skrulls, and then they become terrorists, which, you know, is a good workaround way to write out the Avengers from a major Avengers storyline. So I do like that they at least gave us an explanation, but then it ends with Rhodes firing Fury from his position. They don't say any specifics, but you assume he is firing Fury from his position at Saber. I don't know how he has the authority to do that. We don't really know what Rhodes' position is.
Well, I think we know he's
this week's Scroll.
Well, that is something I wanted to talk about too, because Fury, they grab, you know, the security guard grabs Fury and he goes to pull him away. Fury immediately like breaks the hold, takes the gun away from the security guard, breaks the guy's arm. And he says something along the lines of like, just because you could take my titles away, did you think I would relinquish my DNA? And I don't know if that was supposed to mean like, did you think I was just going to roll over and I'm not the same man I was? Or does he mean that literally? Does he think Rhodes is a Skrull? And is he going to start breaking down and becoming more and more paranoid, thinking everyone around him is a Skrull? Because I think that could be a really interesting dynamic for the show going forward.
Yeah, and is that basically? I haven't read the comics. You have? Is that? I imagine that's probably part of it.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, in the comics they even get to a point where they start convincing Tony Stark that he is a Skrull, and like he doesn't even know whether or not he really is. So I would love to get into that like psychological game a little bit more. So we'll see how that goes. But I thought that was a really interesting line to maybe just mess with us more than anything else. But yeah, going off of that, so you're saying you think Rhodey is a Skrull?
I'm not putting. I thought there might be. I mean, I didn't guess. It's a big reveal to have in the second episode, but there's just parts of it because obviously he admits that he knew about the Skrull thing. Fury suspects that he's surrounded by Skrulls as his security detail. So there are things that would make sense. And then, of course, if that is the case, then we wonder how long. And I guess, maybe. Wouldn't it be amazing if the actual Colonel Rhodes from 2008 happened to show up at some point?
And just nobody noticed that he looked so different.
Nobody wanted to.
Well, Rhodey, you've had some work done. Okay, so no, I think Rhodey is a good guess. And I said last week I don't want to make theories because I think this show is going to turn so many corners. But here I am. I'm putting us on the spot here. So I'll give you that one, Rhodes, as your pick. I'm going to say President Ritson is a Skrull, just because he's not willing to show up for this emergency council that Rhodes had to go to in his place. And I think there's going to be a bunch of Skrulls in high positions of power, as we've already seen with the council. So that's my guess. Dermot Mulroney is a Skrull. Not even in the show, but in real life, Dermot Mulroney is a Skrull. So we already talked about Sonya Falsworth and that whole scene. Again, love the character. Can't wait to see more of her. I think, before we get to that last, just sort of mind-blowing scene, was there anything else that you wanted to talk about from this episode?
I was already thinking ahead to our game and I realized, that one would be one that doesn't qualify. No, like I said, I enjoyed the episode. I'm very curious where it goes. I wonder, because like on the one hand, you want these big reveals and these twists, but on the other hand, it's like, do I really want to screw up that much of what I've come to know?
Right. Yeah.
Like that's kind of like, it's kind of that thing where like I think about this all the time where people want these reboots of shows they love. And I'm like, okay, well, that they're not just going to like continue happily along. You need to have a reason to have the show. So like that couple that you loved so much are going to have to break up, or someone's going to die or something. So do you really want that? And that's kind of what I'm grappling with this. Is like, that'd be cool if he was a Skrull, because that's a huge reveal. But at the same time, like, then what does that mean for the past 15 years of me seeing this dude?
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. And I think that was something that I talked about with a friend of mine years ago, like before we even officially knew that Secret Invasion was happening, was that I was saying, well, it's possible that Nick Fury has been a Skrull this entire time. And he was like, well, I would kind of hate that, because that would change the whole dynamic of, it would mean that Nick Fury didn't assemble the Avengers and it was actually a Skrull, and it would change so many things. So, and yeah, that's a very good point.
I think it's going to be Newhart. We're going to find out everybody's a Skrull, but then we're going to be like, but this is the other universe. We never said this was either 616/9999 or whatever.
That is honestly such a tricky element to the storytelling of the MCU right now. We could be watching an entirely different universe and never know it. The only other thing I wanted to call out real quick is I do think for an episode that was largely, not action focused at all, the action sequence with Gravik and Pagan and then Falsworth's men, I thought was really, really well done. So I liked that. Looking forward to seeing some more of that in the rest of this show going forward. All right, let's talk about this sort of finale that we got here. Fury goes and picks up whatever secret Jeep he had hidden somewhere, because I'm sure he has them in every country, and then drives to this beautiful house that he somehow had all this time too, and then goes inside and we see a Skrull cooking, and Fury comes into the house, but then when he gets in, he sees her. It's she's human. She's a woman, and she says to Fury, aren't you forgetting something? He puts a ring on. They kiss. Fury has a wife. For how long? Who knows? The big question here that I also, again, I didn't think of this on the spot when I first watched it. It was actually Benji that posed this question to me. Do you think he knows that she's a Skrull.
I don't know. He's an interloper. I don't know. I guess I kind of assumed so.
Yeah,
but
I assumed that as well in the moment. But it is done in a way that he never sees her as a Skrull in that scene. So, but I went back to the previous episode, and there are two moments that I think kind of point to her, him knowing that she's a Skrull. One, a joke with Talos saying he's actually good looking amongst his kind. He says, "I know some pretty good looking Skrulls, and you're not one of them." So that could point in that direction. Also, when he's telling Maria Hill, I came back because I owed it to Talos, and she says, "Are you sure you didn't owe it to somebody else?" And he is kind of taken aback by that. So I thought that was an interesting line that might point towards that as well. But then at the same time, he does, he is adamant about Skrulls and humans not being able to coexist on Earth. So I don't know, maybe that goes a point in the other direction. But yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I also think it's interesting that, we're talking about, all right, sorry, hang on. Oh, she's the Skrull who introduced young Gravik to Fury. Okay. I don't know. That is coming from All in the Game, so thank you for that. But okay, I'd have to go back.
IMDb would have something to say about that.
I'm sure, yeah.
No, I think that's that makes a lot of sense. I didn't really think about that.
Yeah. But like I was saying, I think, we're seeing, again, more and more vulnerability from Fury. Fury has always been, professional relationships. I mean, they made him human over the course of the movies and things like that. So he's developed relationships with other characters, but now he's really given himself something to lose. He has a home, he has a wife, and that's, goes against everything you know about Nick Fury, really. So pretty interesting, I thought. And also, I want to ask the question too of who else knows, because like I said, with Maria Hill possibly knowing, does anybody else know about Fury's wife and whether or not he's married to a Skrull?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely another very interesting episode, or ending to the episode. I thought, so far 2 for 2. We end on the death of Maria Hill and the reveal that Nick Fury is married to a Skrull. So pretty big cliffhanger type endings to hit us with. And yeah, I really enjoyed this episode. Like I said, ups the tension. It just keeps you, on the edge of your seat, figuratively, because I was laid out on my couch while I was watching it. But yeah, I think it's going to be more and more tense with each episode.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be.
All right.
If you want to page our guest, I can take the banner down.
Yeah. All right. So the banner is coming down. No more spoilers on Secret Invasion episode 2.
There it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Well, there's also a folder we could use.
We could be a little bit more organized. You're not wrong. Anyway, yeah, so that's it for our Secret Invasion discussion. Let's get into our games. How much is that cameo? All right, so like I said at the top, we have our games. How much is that cameo? We're going to have a draft as well. And joining us this week is probably the guest that's been on the show the most. It is none other than Laughing Place founder Doobie Moses. Co-founder. Sorry, co-founder.
How long have you been married, Mac?
Long enough to know that would have been a big mistake.
Okay.
Doobie, how's it going?
I'm doing very well. How you doing, Mac?
Good. So have you watched, I know you haven't watched this week's episode of Secret Invasion. Did you watch last week's yet?
I did. I'm excited to see this week's.
Oh, so you liked it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He didn't understand anything that was happening.
No idea what's going on.
To be fair, we don't know what's going on either. We're like hesitant to even make theories about this.
I suspect you don't know what's going on at this level, and I don't know what's going on at this level.
That's very possible. You do know that Nick Fury is the guy with the eye, right? Like the eye patch typically. And
I mean, I saw him in the parks, and he had no patch, so I'm even confused about that. No, he had a patch in the
right.
Show. Yeah.
All right. So, Doobie, like I said, you've been on here. This is 72 episodes, so you've been on for roughly 70. Kyle, who do we have for how much is that cameo this week?
Well, let me play you this person's intro.
Hey, sports fans, it's Chris McDonald, a.k.a. Shooter McGavin in the house, and I'm happy to do a cameo for you. I love checking in with fans and trying to keep it on the lighter side, and I do businesses, too, that like to congratulate people who have made a extraordinary achievement happen during this crazy times that we're still in. We'll have fun. We'll have a good time. Just give me a little good intel, and I'll spin it from there. All right. I look forward to hearing from you. And hey, it's 2021. Let's have some fun. Shoot out.
So on Cameo, he's actually listed as Shooter McGavin, but that is Christopher McDonald, who, as we discussed, is in the latest episode of Secret Invasion. Obviously, yes, he's also Shooter McGavin, and as I mentioned, in the underrated House Bunny. But my question for you today is, how much is that cameo?
Well, first, I want to know, did you specifically search for Christopher McDonald or Shooter
I
McGavin?
knew that he was on there before,
okay.
And so before I even searched it, I was like, wait a minute, he's here. He's here. I can do it.
Kyle has been on top of it for these past 2 weeks. He had Dermot Mulroney last week, and now Christopher McDonald for this week's episode. This is tough. Doobie, do you want to set the bar here, or you want me to go first?
I can go first here. I like this actor. First of all, do we have it in the budget to get the intro for the cameo segment to be done via Cameo?
No. In general, I'm not saying that's not a hint for this one. I'm just saying they would add up even if they were $25 a pop.
Okay, just checking.
Could you not just use it? I don't know. We'll have to talk about this off the air, I think.
I'm going to say this cameo, Shooter McGavin, Christopher McDonald, who I confused with another actor that I can't think of right now, is $212.50.
Okay, $212.50. Gotcha.
Yes.
Certainly a number. Okay. Or approximately 3.45 low hands, I think, is the math. I'm going to go. I had a number in mind. Doobie kind of shook me a little bit because he went a lot higher than my number. But I'm going to stick close to it. I'm going to say 125.
Okay. Then this week's winner is Doobie, because that cameo is $250.
Wow.
If I
Get out the 12 from what Doobie said. Get that decimal point out.
if I recognize the face, then this is a big time actor.
Okay, I guess that's a way to go about it. I would be willing to pay that if he had won a gold jacket, but he came up short. So, no.
Well, his left arm's just a little bit shorter than his right, or the other way around. But yeah,
he does also spend more time on the beach or in the sand than David Hasselhoff. All right, we can quote Happy Gilmore all day, or we can get to our drafts. Let's do that.
What if I told you we were putting a team together? Assemble.
Okay, so we are going to be doing an interesting draft here. We've done this concept before. We did this during the holiday season. We are recasting movies here. So it's, as of today, it's June 28th. We're getting close to 4th of July. We wanted to recast 4th of July movies. That's a pretty limited genre, so we expanded it to patriotic movies in general. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to give Kyle a movie. Kyle is going to give Doobie a movie. Doobie will give me a movie. And then we are recasting 4 roles chosen for us with MCU actors. So as complicated as that sounds, it worked out pretty well for us last time. So we're going to try and do it again. Am I missing any rules? This is usually where Kyle cuts me off.
You can't cast if someone who's in the MCU is in the original movie, you can't just cast them again, right?
Right. Yes. So for example, just throwing this out there, if Jeff Goldblum plays one of the characters, you can't cast Jeff Goldblum.
Imagine that.
Can you cast him as a different character in the same movie?
Yeah.
I think that's fine. Yeah. Yeah. And then we should also mention too, this is a draft. So like if I draft an actor, nobody else can take that actor for a different role. So, that's how this is going to go. let's find out what movies we're drafting for. I love this idea because we can't prep at all. Like we can't we can't possibly have forgotten to prepare because there's nothing we could do. So who wants to lay our movies out here first? Who wants to? I'm picking for Kyle.
Yeah,
I want to go last.
Okay, I'll pick for Doobie. I know what he wants me to do, but I'm gonna default. I'm torn between the other two because there's my first thought, best thought. Then there's the one that I think would be more interesting because I'm a little bit more familiar with that movie. But I'm gonna go with the one that everyone thinks of immediately when you say 4th of July movie, and that's because it's called Independence Day. So Doobie, I need a Captain Stephen Hiller, which is Will Smith in the original, a President Thomas J. Whitmore, who is Bill Pullman, a David Levinson, who is Jeff Goldblum, and Marilyn Whitmore, who is the First Lady, and she is played by Mary McDonnell.
What was the first character again?
Captain Stephen Hiller, played by Will Smith in the original.
Oh, Will Smith. Yeah, I forgot about that role. Okay, so Will Smith, the president,
Jeff Goldblum and the First Lady.
Okay.
By the way, these are the top 4 builds. Is basically how I did it. It worked out.
Okay.
I had this as an option as well, except instead of the First Lady, I had the Randy Quaid character in there.
Yeah, so I thought about that, but again, I just figured if they're top build, they're top build for a reason.
Yeah, that's fair. No, it's tough to choose the 4 sometimes.
Not for me.
Okay, so Doobie wants to go last. So, I could throw a wrench into Doobie's plans right now, but that's just going to come back and hurt me probably. So, no. So Kyle, I told you as we talked about this idea, what movies came to mind first. So, boy, do I hope you've seen Jaws, because that's what
I have not. But let's go for it. I'm gonna need a.
Can I do a timeout here?
Shark?
You've never seen Jaws?
You are not recasting the shark.
Okay,
though Jeff would have worked. Jeff the land shark. No, you were going to be recasting Chief Brody, of course, played by Roy Scheider. Matt Hooper, played by Richard Dreyfuss. Captain Quint, played by Robert Shaw. And I changed things up a little bit on this one. I didn't go with just the next build. I went with the Mayor Vaughn.
Mary Vaughn, yeah.
Yeah, so
that's the name I know of those.
Well, good. I gave you the one then. Mostly I chose him because this is a 4th of July movie, pretty much because of you yell shark, we have a panic on our hands on the 4th of July. That's why I had to go with that movie. Also, one of my favorite movies of all time. So, Kyle, that and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. You should probably see both of those.
All right. Well, can I tell you the movie that I was hoping to get that I almost gave Doobie?
Sure.
I have no idea what it is. Yeah.
National Treasure.
Oh,
okay.
I would have wanted a Nick Cage, a Diane Kruger, a Justin Bartha, and a Sean Bean.
Right, so I am picking, first of all, Kyle, I can't believe you haven't seen Jaws. I've never thought less of you in my life. So I am picking for you, right, Mac?
Yes, you are.
So I'm going to go with my second choice because I think it's fun. But if you haven't seen it, I would like to reserve the right to switch to the other one.
Yeah, hey, I have no complaints there.
Rocky IV.
Oh, yes. Okay. So I'm curious what the 4 roles are, but yeah.
Okay, so Rocky IV, which is definitely a patriotic movie. Rocky Balboa goes and kicks some Russian butt back when that was still an okay thing to do. I am a little disappointed that you have seen it because I can't believe we're doing this without Hamilton, and that's what I really.
We would have to argue whether or not that was a movie.
If you want to switch it, I have no problem doing either one. But
this hurts so much that we're not doing Hamilton.
Can I ask you a question? If you were going to do Hamilton, which 4? Because we looked at the top 4 build in that, and I have a feeling that the absence of Daveed Diggs was going to be the deal breaker for you.
You know what? I have my 4. I did not go by the top 4 build. Nevertheless, I did not have Daveed Diggs. I chose Alexander Hamilton, Aaron Burr, and the 2 ladies, Eliza and Angelica.
Okay. I think that is according to IMDb. That's the top 4 build. Yeah, I had Angelica. I then had I put George Washington in instead of Eliza. I think, but
I love the idea of having the 2 ladies because those are both incredible parts in that show.
They are,
even though George Washington is my personal favorite in that show, and now I'm wanting to go Hamilton, but nope, we're going to go with Rocky IV. We are going to do Rocky Balboa, of course. Mm-hmm. We've got a legit villain here in Drago. That should be fun, and then we've got Adrian. Of course, his wife. Not a huge role in this one, but she's in it. And then Apollo Creed. Someone's got to die. Spoiler alert.
Wow, okay.
So,
I just had a stunt casting idea. I'm just going to keep that to myself for a moment.
Yeah, I mean, it probably also just came to mind for me. It seems almost too obvious, but we'll talk about it when it's my turn.
Wow.
No, for me. I mean, yeah.
Oh, for you? Oh, okay.
I do want to say one other film I had on my list, just in case it was necessary. I didn't have the roles picked. Red Dawn, a great patriotic movie.
Well, that would have been one that I haven't seen. So, yeah.
Okay. Have you seen it, Kyle? No, what am I? Kyle's never seen it.
I like that because Kyle has never seen Jaws. He has the reputation now of never seeing any movies.
Well, he's anti-American.
All right, so let's actually get this draft started here. Doobie, do you want to pick first, second, or third?
It hardly.
I've already forgotten my movie. I'm ID4. I hate that movie. I so hate that movie. I'm going to pick third.
Can you repeat what you just said? What'd you call the movie?
No, ID4.
Mac, I hadn't heard that before. He's not 90s enough.
Kyle referred to it, yeah.
You've never heard it called the whole year leading up to it, you'd be sitting in the theater and the trailer comes up. ID4, it was huge.
I was 6 years old when that movie came out. I do not remember.
No, but Doobie, would you call Independence Day a popcorn movie?
Independence Day may define the popcorn movie, which is why I hate it, because I thought it was going to be an actual good movie. Silly me.
It's probably my favorite movie where Jeff Goldblum has the line "must go faster." I think that's probably.
Although one fun fact about that movie, you really can infect an alien computer with a Mac virus. That I learned on ID4. Spoiler alert! Right? Apparently, it is possible.
Interesting. Okay, so did you? I'm sorry, Doobie. Did you say? Do you want to pick first, second, or third? Third. Okay.
Oh my gosh, I have to go first.
Yes, Kyle, you do have the first pick. This is going to be interesting. To be fair, Kyle, my backups were Independence Day and Hamilton, so it was never going to get better for you.
Yeah. Okay. One of these people should be somebody cool. The Hooper is. You said that one's the.
That is Richard
I know
Dreyfuss.
nothing about these. I know what Richard Dreyfuss looks like.
I'll stall for you real quick here and just address Rebecca's comment. She said, "You were 4." Ouch! No, I was 6. Hopefully,
you were born in 90.
90, yes, yeah.
Okay. So, he says you're going to need a bigger boat. Which one says that?
That's Brody.
That's Brody that says that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that dude's going to be Robert Downey Jr.
I like it. No, that's probably who I would cast as Brody, to be honest. I think that's a good one.
Cool.
Really? Yeah, I guess so.
I mean, it's RDJ. It's hard to go wrong with him. You know, you can do a lot of different roles.
Can I say that Robert Downey Jr. is mentioned in the brand new Fall Out Boy single released today? That's an update of We Didn't Start the Fire with things from 1989 to 2023, but not in order for some stupid reason.
No, you cannot say that.
No, absolutely can't.
Can't censor me. We got no dump button on this thing.
Okay, so do I want to just do the obvious here? I don't know. There's some problematic options for me on the board here. No, I'm gonna use my first pick. Yeah, I'm just gonna do it. I feel like I have to, and I feel like if it gets taken away, people are gonna question why I didn't do it. So I'm gonna take Michael B. Jordan as Apollo Creed.
That's too easy.
Exactly. That's why I couldn't not do it. Why couldn't
you take him as Rocky?
I could have taken him as Rocky, but I mean, I feel like the connection there with Apollo Creed already, just had to do it.
Obviously, that's the character's son, but he's also the star of the thing in the new Rocky.
Sure,
okay,
sure.
Fair enough. All right, my turn. I'm going to start with the Will Smith character. I have no idea what his character's name is, but I'm going to
Stephen Hiller, as I
Captain Stephen Hiller. I think he's kind of brash, kind of cocky. Definitely got a humorous undercurrent, whatever, to him. I think the obvious choice here is Chris Pratt.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, he's familiar in dealing with aliens, so I like it
too. Yes, he can sing. Will Smith sings. He sings. So I think that works. All right. Shall I go second? My second pick?
Yeah. Back-to-back picks here. So you got Chris Pratt as in a Stephen Hiller role here.
For my second pick, I am going to go with the First Lady.
Oh, okay.
And I only have one female among my four, so I have to choose Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, already writing her down.
Even though I think Elizabeth Olsen probably would play this particular part better,
he would be.
It
very
is a
good
rule. It is a rule. I have to choose Scarlett Johansson.
That's true. Well, hey, I mean, nobody said you couldn't make her the president, but
man's gotta have principles.
Oh man, I know. How sexist am I? I didn't think of that.
Man, I have been struggling with who I want to play Rocky. This is difficult.
And you can't do the person who's in the MCU who
can't
could play that role.
To play Rocky here. Oh man. I
just want to remind you, I was already sexist. Female boxing is a big thing these days.
Sure, we could go full $1 Million Baby here. That's a pivot I could make here. Kyle, The Office is not a show that we reference very often.
Because I don't watch that much, but I know that one.
Yeah, that's true. Man, all right. So I think I'm going to do this. This is Rocky 4. Rocky's a little bit older in this movie. He's always the underdog, more or less, but he's really the underdog here in this one. I'm going to go a little bit older, not too much older, but I'm going to take Josh Brolin.
Yep. Easy pick.
Is it really? I did not. That was kind of I thought I was going outside the box there. I didn't think Josh Brolin was somebody people would go to for Rocky.
As I'm looking here at this giant list of MCU universe actors, he's the one that jumped out at me.
No, okay, all right. So there you go. I'm feeling good about. Now there's a pretty big age gap between Rocky and Apollo Creed now, but we could work around that.
For sure.
All right, Kyle, back to you now.
Wait! You chose Michael B. Jordan. Apollo Creed dies in this one. This is like a kid dying.
He's not a kid. Michael B. Jordan's like 30 years old.
No, I just saw him in that what was the movie with when he gets superpowers?
Chronicle.
I just saw that like a few days ago. He's like 19.
That's true. Yes, I love that movie. By the way, really enjoyed that
movie.
Kyle, we are back to you. You have Robert Downey Jr. in the Roy Scheider role here. Who are you adding to your cast for Jaws?
Well, I'm Googling Quint, and things normal people do. I know that he crushes a can at some point, so that's all I'm going on.
Just the
looks a little crazy.
Which character are you trying to do? Shaw?
Yeah, Robert Shaw, Captain.
He's got the epitomal line that then should inform the actor you choose. I'm gonna bring back whatever he says. The head, the tail, the whole darn thing.
Oh, so I'm gonna Deep Blue Sea it.
Ooh, I'm not opposed to that. I like that.
All right, Samuel
L. Jackson is Captain Quint.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah, I like that. I'm interested in this movie right now, Robert Downey Jr. You're back on the clock here. I do kind of wish I gave you the shark to cast, but no, you do still have Hooper and Mayor Vaughn as your cast here.
Okay, and Hooper is the
Richard Dreyfuss character.
Yeah, Dreyfuss.
Brainiac.
Okay. I'm looking at an action figure of him right now. That's helping.
A Richard Dreyfuss action figure?
a Hooper action figure, yeah.
I have a couple of names that come to mind for this role for me that I'm curious to see if you land on.
Interesting. I mean, like, I'm definitely like getting a vibe from these photos I'm looking at.
I love that this is how you have
can't translate it to oh well, I just had a name who I think he looks like, but that person's not in the MCU, so that doesn't do me any good.
No, that doesn't
am I allowed to pass? Has that ever been done? I'm trying to think of that or Mayor Vaughn. Mayor Vaughn was the one that I had a stunt casting for, but I feel like I could probably get more mileage out of something real.
I think this guy would make a good Richard Dreyfuss character.
Doobie, I'm really looking forward to finding out who you're going to have do the best presidential speech in history.
Okay,
I'm
going to think about Hooper longer. I'm going to take Larry Vaughn, Catherine Hahn.
You did this last time too with Catherine Hahn, with having her play the
because I could see her like being kind of like that oblivious mayor and stuff like that. You could do a lot of things with that without me saying more.
I love it. Put Catherine Hahn in all the things. I'm not opposed at all.
On the list.
What, put in all the things? Really? Okay.
So you're banning All in the Game? Is that too close?
Okay. So now
I'll tell you my stunt cast at the end. Never mind. Sorry.
Yeah, we can talk about.
I forgot how this works.
All right. So I'm having a hard time here. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and draft my Adrian because Doobie already mentioned her. I want to get her before he does. So I'm going to take Elizabeth Olsen to play Adrian.
Good pick.
I mean, just I'm purely based on talent there. Like you said, Adrian doesn't have a huge role in this movie, but I want the acting chops in that role.
I should have chosen the robot as the fourth character in this one.
I could have drafted Jarvis.
It's my turn.
It is your turn. You still have. Let's see. We have Chris Pratt as Stephen Hiller, and you have Scarlett Johansson as Marilyn Whitmore. Like I said, really curious who's going to give that presidential speech. You also have to fill a role played by Jeff Goldblum, which good luck with that. And you can't choose Jeff Goldblum. So
I'm gonna have to go to the other end of the spectrum with that. So as you said, the president in ID4, a very
real quick, Doobie. Pressure is on because Rebecca has her pick in mind for the president.
So Rebecca, go ahead and give your pick because I have mine, so I'm not going to be swayed.
No slack open during our draft.
I have my pick already, and that's what I'm going with now. I'm going an inspirational actor. I mean, like you said, this is one of the most inspirational, maybe the best presidential speech in the history of movies. I want someone who can get up there, command the stage, get people ready to go kick some alien booty, and that is why Samuel L. Jackson is the president of my Independence Day 4 movie.
Well, would be a
but he's taken already. Okay, so I forgot that detail of the game. Is it a good pick, though? Let me know if that's a good pick.
It is a good pick for both of those roles, which is pretty crazy to say because Samuel L. Jackson just is phenomenal. But I like that you talked Kyle into picking Samuel L. Jackson and then tried to pick him yourself.
Because I forgot the way the game works. All right, so this guy's also inspirational, a little more low-key, but I don't think he's any less inspirational, especially when he does Jeopardy on SNL, or did Jeopardy on SNL. I'm going to go with Chadwick Boseman.
Oh, nice. Okay. You said Jeopardy on SNL. I'm like, what role did Will Ferrell have in the MCU? Chadwick Boseman, yeah, love it. I considered Chadwick for a couple of roles, actually. And yeah, that would be, I could see him delivering that speech. I think that would be awesome.
Yes, with the accent. All right. Jeff Goldblum, the character I believe is Jeff Goldblum.
Right, yeah, more or less it is, as are most of his characters.
So I'm going to go with another actor that I feel like he acts as himself often. He's capable of doing other roles, unlike Jeff Goldblum. But I feel like he definitely has himself. Much different than Jeff, but in that same kind of way. Oh, yeah, that's just Jeff being Jeff. We're going to watch ID4 and we're going, oh, yeah, that's just Tom Holland being Tom Holland.
I was thinking Tom Holland for some reason because so the connection that I was actually thinking of was, have you ever seen the interview at D23 where the person asks Jeff Goldblum what he thinks about Spider-Man not being in the MCU? He goes, what? This is the first time I heard of it. I'm crestfallen. And so because of that connection, I was thinking about Tom Holland.
They both have a weird goofiness to them that I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it works.
By the way, I love that you reunited the brothers from Onward for this movie with Chris Pratt and Tom Holland.
That was my plan.
Okay, so my last pick, I need my Ivan Drago. I've been racking my brain just trying to come up with just the biggest person I could find. And I have one in mind. I hope he can do a Russian accent. It's going to be Chris Hemsworth. That's he's gonna fit that role.
He's blonde. Listen, you got that.
He's blonde. He's huge. Maybe we change up the role. Maybe it's whatever an Australian name would be instead of Ivan Drago. But so Chris Hemsworth is my Ivan Drago. I'm curious to know if you guys had any other thoughts in mind for that role, because I could not come up with somebody.
I thought Josh Brolin for Ivan Drago, and then
I thought that too, but I kind of wanted to make him my Rocky instead. So, but that's what I've got. I got Chris Hemsworth versus Josh Brolin in that fight. Which, by the way, sign me up. I will watch that. Doobie, we are up to your last. Oh no, sorry, Kyle. We are up to your last pick now.
Yeah, super.
You have to fill the Richard Dreyfuss role now. What are you gonna?
Well, I'm trying to think of someone who will look good with a beard and a bag, maybe some glasses.
Listen, I'm honored. I'm honored, but I'm not eligible. I have not been in the MCU yet.
No, I was thinking Oscar Isaac.
Oh, I like that. That's a good one. Definitely gonna put a different spin on the character. I was looking at mine. I wanted to cast Oscar Isaac, but I don't think he really fit any of the roles. I'll just say this before I forget. The two that came to mind for me for the Richard Dreyfuss role were Mark Ruffalo and Paul Bettany. So those two were ones that I thought you could put in that role. But what else? Did you guys have any other ideas here, Doobie? Did you have any other names on your list that you wanted to?
I think Mark Ruffalo is perfect for Richard Dreyfuss, so you blew that one, Kyle. I really wanted Samuel L. Jackson, my president. I'm so disappointed. I already said Elizabeth Olsen would have been a better first lady. Man, there's just so many actors I wanted to use. Robert Redford, I thought about for president. He's got some.
That would have fit very well. Yeah,
a lot of gravitas.
Actually, the name that came to mind for the president for me was John Slattery, who plays Tony Stark's father in Avengers Endgame and a few other films as well.
I thought Clark Gregg would have worked for the character who I already forgot. I think Shaw, but Sam Jackson's much better. But Vin Diesel, that could have been your Drago.
Okay, yeah, that's. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Vin Diesel in too many things outside of Guardians of the Galaxy. It's a little rough.
Family.
I will say after seeing the most recent film, I wish I could have taken Jason Momoa because blew my mind in that movie. But anyway.
Flash?
No. In Fast X.
Oh, ew. I mean, okay.
Kurt Russell as first thought for the president. I like that. It's a good one.
That's a great
Kurt Russell also could have been my Ivan Drago. Would I have to bulk up a little bit, but.
My stunt casting for Mayor Vaughn was Iron Man 2 star Elon Musk.
I also wanted Sam Rockwell in some way since you brought up Iron Man 2, but I couldn't work him into anything here. I think that's it. It's hard to even have a list of anybody else that comes to mind when we couldn't do any prep for this draft, but I like it. I think our holiday movies might have been a little bit better than the ones we did today, but we'll see. We'll see what people think of these.
I'd seen the holiday ones.
That's fair. Yeah. You know what, Kyle, for never having seen Jaws, I think you did a pretty good job.
Thank you.
But that being said, go see Jaws. What?
This movie began the summer blockbuster. Without Jaws, we'd have no need for Disney Plus.
Without Jaws, we don't have the now just Jaws joke in the Tramtastic Day song.
Yes. Go see. Oh my goodness. See Jaws. Takeaway. Jaws is so good. Jaws is. A lot of people consider, a lot of film people consider Jaws to be the greatest movie of all time, and I can understand that. It's
I believe Mike C is among them. So,
see the movie.
But again, good job without having seen it. Doobie, thank you so much for joining us again. We always save these ridiculous drafts for you, so next time we do one, I'm sure we'll have you back on.
The drafts that don't require knowledge are when you bring Doobie on. Thank you very much. It's been great to be here.
Bye, Doobie.
Bye.
Rebecca says I could read the book of Jaws too. That sounds.
I wanted to do that somewhat recently too, and I tried getting into it, and then I had a friend who reads much faster than I do tell me that it was not good. Maybe I'll still give it another shot though.
I'm gonna start with Jaws 3D.
Good choice. Yes, start with that because from there it's only going to get better. Although
watch The Meg.
The Revenge is a little bit worse. The Meg is a fun movie. Terrible, but it's a fun movie. All right, that was fun. That was another ridiculous, fun draft. We will be back next week. As I said at the top, weekly episodes. So hopefully we have some news to talk about next week. That we're not catching up on a month's worth anymore. So hopefully we will have the debut of Rogers the Musical before our next week's episode. So
I don't think either of us will actually see it in person,
right.
but we can watch Mike Celestino's video, which will be up on probably sometime on Thursday. If you're hearing this, that'll be Thursday, June 29th at some point.
Checks out. That's how calendars work. Yeah. So we'll talk about that a little bit next week, as well as the third episode of Secret Invasion, and just whatever other nonsense we decide to talk about. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at Zzzax of Life Pod. If you're not watching this live right now, if you're listening, you can watch us live every Wednesday, as long as Secret Invasion's happening, on the Laughing Place YouTube channel. Be sure to head to laughingplace.com for all your Marvel and Disney news in general. Anything else, Kyle? Did I forget anything?
I don't think so.
All right. Job well done, then. We will see everyone next week. Bye. Oh, wait. Hang on.
We have an outro.
We have an outro. It's